It seems every week there's a new AI model or feature dropping, yet most businesses barely use the basics of the AI tools they already have. In today's video, we answer the question, do businesses really need more powerful AI? We also discuss how to master the AI tools you already have, which may be the true level up for your company. Let's accelerate your business. Hi everyone, welcome to the AI Accelerator for Business show, where you get the latest strategies, tactics, and information to get the business benefits from artificial intelligence. My name is Carl Ye. I'm joined by my co-host Jeff Bradshaw, and today we're going to be talking about, do we really need any more powerful AI? And Jeff, the reason why we want to talk about this topic is there's so many model releases. Seems like every week, every day, every month, but most people aren't. They're not even using it near the capabilities of those really high-end top research. And then we hear people, I guess, complaining about like, oh, it doesn't do this. But I'm like, well, the majority of people don't really use it to its max capabilities.
You know what, Carl, it's an important topic too, because I mean, if most teams are just stuck with basic writing and strategy and the very basics of AI, then some of these power hungry updates don't really matter and won't have an impact. So I think we have to ground this in a level that, you know, do we need to dumb it down a little bit for people? And are we getting, like you've said, are we getting distracted with these big upgrades?
Yeah, so like we've seen GPT-5, we've seen Grok 4. I think going back, Gemini 2.5. I think Sam Altman's already talking about GPT-6. There's rumors about Claude Opus 4.1, right? So the terms themselves for people outside the AI bubble doesn't mean anything, right? Because I think it's more, hey, how can this help me do my work? Okay, if it can't, that's okay too. It doesn't really matter to me.
You know what? And I think this goes back to the AI gap that you keep talking about, because I think guys like us that are in the AI space, we're just on the edge of our seat waiting for the latest next big thing. And we take a look at some of the simplest, very powerful tasks that these AI models can do now. And we kind of forget about them because we're waiting for the latest and greatest. And yet the basic users, the average person, isn't even using, 5% of the capabilities of things like a ChatGPT. So I think it's like we're contributing to that gap growing.
And we're not even talking about everything beyond large language models, right? You have video, you have audio, you have music, you have agents. There's like each and every single one of these companies in those areas are going as fast, updating as fast. Like I would suggest anybody just go to the X feed or Twitter feed of 11 Labs or Higgsfield or GenSpark, and you just scroll down all the updates that defeat, like you can't even test it because the next update is ready. So unless you're just entirely using that tool, there's no way for you to keep up. And I think a couple of numbers are pretty telling, right? So Sam Altman, when GPT-5 came out, he's saying that only 7% of paid ChatGPT users were using reasoning, which to me is the most insane thing because of the leap between just regular ChatGPT 4.0 and then o3 at the time. And now you have, I think, was it 9 different models or combinations of in GPT-5 that unless you put GPT-5 with thinking, who knows what you're going to get based on the response. And I think based on your query, if only 7% of those who pay, and I'm assuming those who pay are somewhat more knowledgeable, but I think when we go to our discoveries, people who pay, they're like, I don't know, I pay for it and I just use the basic, and that's kind of what I do.
But that's true. Like they're paying for it, and they're still using it to write basic emails and do tone checks on
Yeah.
emails. And again, a lot of people who put their hand up and say they pay for it, we always ask the question, well, who's used the advanced voice mode? And people don't know what it is. So you ask about reasoning and deep research, people don't know what it is. They've got access to the agent and nobody has a clue. And so, this goes back to the fact that, you and I always have this discussion. I think it's quite funny. We're slightly closer now, but I keep saying, Carl, we've got to dumb this down. We've got to dumb this down. And you're reluctant to, because I'm dummying it down, and you're thinking that people are closer to your level of
Yeah.
knowledge. You're in a Ferrari, and they're still, in a Volkswagen Beetle
Well, I
or
think
walking.
everybody has the Ferrari. It's just people are driving it like a Volkswagen Beetle, right?
Very true. And
Uh,
and I think and that's like even when you talk about reasoning, people don't understand reasoning until we explain it to them and
yeah.
deep research. And I even find, I mean, and I've even seen, and I sometimes I feel like I'm falling behind, like I can't keep up to the advancements. And yet I listen to some very smart tech executives, and even they've made comments of saying it's difficult for them to stay on top of it. So
Mhm.
how do you expect the average person out there in the business world to try and
Yeah.
grasp this? So I think it is like, if we can, I say dumb it down. I don't want to dumb it down, but I think if there's some way, we've got to figure out how to bring people along a little bit quicker and show them some more of the potential of what they could do with these tools.
I think too, like, so I put out a LinkedIn post about like generally what we're finding, right? When we meet with a client or a prospect, we go, okay, who here uses AI for their daily work? And it's most 85% and up usually put their hand up in some most of the time. And then for those who use AI, what do you use? And I would say again, 85% and up, ChatGPT. A couple people with Copilot because their company makes them use Copilot. Then we get a smattering of Perplexity, Gemini, Claude, Midjourney,
Grok.
Grammarly, and then Grok, something else, right? Rarely do we go outside of that, and rarely do we get into the even multimodal stuff, audio, video, very rare. And then we go, hey, who here pays for any of these services? And I would say what, maybe a quarter or
Yep.
less than, sometimes less, pays for some sort of service, right? And then we go, hey, okay, who here has reasoning? It's usually maybe one person. A lot of times there's nobody because
No.
they didn't even know it exists. Then we talk about, hey, custom GPTs, don't even get me started. There's nothing there, right? So, and then we can't really talk about anything else because we know kind of the knowledge base of everything. And I think then when you look at how simple it is, right? The model switcher from GPT-4 to O3 or GPT-5 to thinking or mini thinking or whatever it is now, most people just won't go there. They'll just use the base model and, take it from there. I think this is systemic of from a business perspective. I would say every single business pretty much they haven't really changed that much. Right?
No, and I think part of the problem is I even find for myself, like what ends up happening is you get like the nano banana comes out
Yeah.
or Higgsfield comes out with a new release, just from an image gen standpoint. You get some of these demos online that you see on X, and they're absolutely amazing. And so then I get on there and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I want to recreate something the same. And I don't have the same experience. It's the same. You and I had this discussion earlier today about Lovable,
Yeah.
is that it's really powerful until you start using it. And as soon as you start running into a few roadblocks, people will get frustrated and they're like, okay, I can't keep up. So they just give up and they
Mhm.
walk away. And I think
Yeah.
that's what even happens with the basics of ChatGPT. Somebody tries something because there's lots of hype and talk about it. They don't have the greatest experience because they have no clue what they're doing. So they throw their hands up and they're like, I've failed, I've fallen behind. So there's no point in trying to catch up. And that's the wrong attitude. And, we always talk about the fact that if people can take an interest in AI, test some of these models, not be afraid of failing, and spend a bit of time learning a bit more about it, even the basics, I think that's going to help move these things along. But they don't need to know the latest, greatest
Mm.
releases of the technology.
I think there is a different kind of mind shift too, because in legacy business operations, you get a tool and you have time. You have time to whether it's a decade, 5 years, 6 years, you have a lot of time to get kind of used to it because the company probably won't change that tool for however long because they spent the money. But I think in this case, it's harder to do that because you have to be open to switching your process pretty quickly, right? And it's very difficult for people to switch a process that they've been working or trained on, or the company has developed the process years and decades. Very, very difficult to make that adjustment. And then when we talk about more powerful AI, I was like, I think we have if nothing changes, which is not, if there's no more innovation right now, it will still take what, 5, 10 years to get everyone acclimatized to what is available today. But that's not happening. And I also think people are just starting to tune this stuff out. There's even tomorrow, if you have, let's say, personal super intelligence, it's like we've been so saturated that it no longer makes any difference.
No, and I think and it's interesting because we meet with a lot of different companies, mid-sized, large companies, and I'm quite amazed too the complexity of some of the models that these companies have built over years, where a lot of it is based on Excel spreadsheets, very, very complex Excel spreadsheets, or certain ways that somebody has done something. And so they're looking for AI to come in and replicate that exact process, which isn't the right approach. And you always say this, companies need to look and go, well, let's break this entire process up. And how can we use AI to get the same end result, but maybe in a simpler process?
Mhm.
Because I look at a lot of these companies, I'm thinking, wow, they're, multi-billion-dollar company. They must be finely tuned engines. And then we get inside and we're like, holy crap, there's a shit show in here of
Yeah.
how they operate. And there's such a huge opportunity for AI. And again, it's not always the latest and greatest releases. It's some of the very basic ChatGPT, large language models can solve some of these problems, or some AI automation, some very basic stuff. But it takes time and commitment to get there. And that's what a lot of people
Yeah.
are not willing to go through the process of.
I think like even our last several companies that we've talked to and we've seen the discovery, right? I still surprises me that the person, one of their tasks is to go through, I don't know how many, over 100, I don't know, 70, 80 folders. And the only thing they do is they're checking if another document is in that folder. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's a job. That's not their only job, but that's a task. And it's like, you don't need ChatGPT 5 thinking. You don't need any of that to do that. That is very basic. Something else you could probably do to automate that. And we're not talking the 10 to 40% we were talking about. We're talking the full 100% just to complete that, right? So it's all these little tiny processes that I think businesses have created, or employees in these businesses have created, after years and years of working around workarounds of workarounds, right? So process after process. And then when a new tech comes in, they have to do a new workaround. So there's layers of complexity. And this is why I say it's not your competitors who are your actually worst nightmare, because they probably are in the exact same boat as you. They have all these different processes. And sure, maybe in a month or 2 months, they may be a little bit ahead, but then you'll catch up. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at AI native companies that they aren't restrained by these processes that have been built. And they have a mindset of, hey, we're just going to adapt however we're going to adapt, rather than we got to go through the layers to do this. And one thing that I'm noticing too is, and I talked about this earlier today in another show, how we're so focused on, can AI, and you've said this a lot, can AI do everything for me? And if it can't, oh, then it's no good. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And maybe I think we're having that mindset where like the model itself will solve all our problems. And if it doesn't, then AI doesn't work. Versus what we were talking about in China, where they're like, how do we integrate AI in government, in business, in personal, from a product perspective? How can we integrate it all in your daily life, in your work, and in government, versus, hey, we're going to wait for this model that can do everything? And I don't know about you. I think that's where, just thinking back to all the meetings we've had, there seems to be a difference in expectations of what AI can do, what it can do, and what the end state will be.
Totally. And I mean, it's still developing, but I mean, I go back, like, there's definitely, I think the threat for organizations in the future are potentially AI centric companies, right? Start from nothing, all based on AI. But I also think the other threat is, we talk about the AI gap, the people that use AI on a regular daily basis, like you and I do, and those who use it infrequently or not at all, and that gap is widening. I think you're going to see the same gap in traditional businesses, in the fact that you're going to have traditional companies that start to integrate AI and are open to these solutions and are starting to figure out an AI integration plan and adoption. and those who are not because maybe they don't think it's that big of a deal, or they just don't have the time, or they're just not paying attention to it. I think you're going to see a massive gap starting to happen in the business world where you're going to see whatever, two insurance companies, two home builders, two accounting firms. They're going to look significantly different because one's using the new technology available and the other one is lagging behind. And I think that's a big concern for companies. The other point I was saying is that the funny thing is, too, is a lot of times with all these companies we deal with, a lot of them say, well, we've got to get an AI policy in place and we've got to wait till we do that. And yet we're like, well, go use a large language model and let it help
Yeah.
create your AI policy. You could do it in probably 15 or 20 minutes and then run it by your legal department and have a policy by the end of the day. And yet people are, again, thinking traditional. No, we got to go to the lawyers. We got to review it. It's going to take 3 or 4 months. Come on.
Yeah, and by then too, again, and this is actually not a knock on that process, because that process has served well for businesses for so long. But you can't really do that with AI, especially when you said, oh, so we got legal to review it and it takes months. Well, it's like by that time, the way people are using has changed. So your policy may already be, you have to update it. Like, 3, 6, 7 months ago, Claude Code wasn't around, or 8 months ago, Claude Code wasn't around. Well, now it can, and now you can connect it directly to your terminal. We're like, that is a completely different way of IT security understanding, but also, hey, how do we enable our teams to use it to, you know, become even more productive? And no one can keep up with that kind of stuff.
No, but I think that's the thing. You take a look back in time, and I mean, the horse and buggy served everybody well, and so did the old clothesline out in the backyard. And why would I buy a clothes dryer when I can just hang it out on the back line in the backyard? I mean, we worked fine before we had cell phones, and I think that's the thing about it is that you know waiting for, and going back to this topic here is the fact that do we need better models? Is the do we need even better AI models? I'm going, we got it. Like, people got to start using the tools that are available. There is so much, like you and I talk about. I mean, right today, in the presentation you do, we can pretty much guarantee an operational efficiency increase of 10 to 40% with the tools that are available today, not what's going
Yep.
to be released in the next 6 months, today. So if you take a look at a 10 to 40% improvement in efficiencies across your organization, that's massive. And yet we still run into a lot of companies that are saying, no, no, we're good. We've rolled out Microsoft Copilot to our team and that's our plan. Great. You've given somebody a tool that they don't even know what it's for, how to use it. And so that's pretty much a pointless process.
Yeah. When we talk about the gap too, we're talking about, it isn't just about people who use AI and those who don't use AI. I'm also finding the other gap is people who use AI and then those who use it to its full capability, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
like, if we go into ChatGPT, just really simple here, I'm just going to go into just regular ChatGPT. If you look at, okay, most people will just go into ChatGPT, do their thing here. First of all, you probably need to decide, hey, which of these would I use for the specific tasks? If you don't know, I think you're missing out on massive intelligence opportunities, especially
Yep.
for complex tasks, where I think this on some benchmarks is 20 to 25 more percentage points intelligence than this, right?
Yep.
But that's not even where we start. Where we let's not start there. We have advanced voice mode. Like, you can have full conversations without having to type. That's another feature there too. But then we get into all these things that I guarantee most people haven't even looked at, right? From the
Yep.
ability to pull directly from your Drive, OneDrive, or SharePoint, to agent mode, to deep research. Then we get to connectors, study and learn, Canvas. And that's just with ChatGPT. How about Claude? How about Gemini? Like, how about Grok? All the different, you know, large language models, and then all the other AI tools like Higgsfield and 11 Labs. I think there's that gap where there's a very small percentage who are using AI to its full capabilities, and then those who are just using AI kind of like research and kind of like just creating content, which is not, again, do we need more powerful AI models? I don't think so. I think most people could even get away with GPT-4. Even 3.5 would probably be good enough for, I think, a majority of our clients.
Totally. And I mean, even when you get in, and that doesn't even include things like doing custom GPTs that are incredibly powerful when you're, wanting to create solutions for reviewing documents or creating proposals or whatever the process might be. Um, and even with that, I think that, some people get scared off because they're like, oh, well, you got to know how to prompt. Well, it's helpful if you know how to prompt, but you don't have to know how to prompt to start to use some of these tools. But again, that's all in the process of
Yeah.
starting your journey to integrate AI. Is that if you start to get curious and you're not afraid of failing every once in a while,
Yeah.
then, that's a great place to start.
So if you had one tip for companies who are, say, using AI, but want them to use more of the advanced capabilities, what would that be?
Oh, I mean, I think that, to me, we talk to clients all the time about this. It's about basic education and it's about accountability. And I mean, I think that if somebody has some basic education, some accountability, like our accelerator program, little plug for us in there, but I mean, we're working with groups to be able to help them on an ongoing basis. I think that, we've seen it many times. Bit of education, bit of momentum, they'll start to realize solutions that they never even thought about before starting their journey.
Yeah, and it's because every single business is so unique in their process that, you know, only they can understand how to leverage AI. We, we could say to ourselves, hey, we're AI experts, or we're a little bit more further on in our AI journey than other people. But even we can't go into business and be like, I honestly don't know because you are the experts in your field and how you run your operations. We're just hoping to give you the breadth or the knowledge enough that it like turns on a bunch of light bulbs. You're like, oh, I can use it for this because this is unique to our process, right? So I guess the question for our audience is, which AI feature or AI tool do you underutilize already? So most of you probably are using this combination of ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, but really take the time to go into that tool and find one or two features you've never touched before and go explore it. Go try that out because you have a very, very powerful thing, even and especially if you pay for it, that, for $20 a month. Can you imagine all the things, agent mode, study and learn, the things that you can have access to and the abilities you have at your fingertips too? Learn more about implementing AI by watching these videos here. Enjoy today's episode? Want to learn how AI can impact your business? Then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.